So how does an agent go from 10 deals one year, then they scale that to 30 deals the second year, then they go to 60, then they go to 100 and beyond? How is that possible? What's actually going on? In this episode, you guys, I'm going to attempt to really help you understand what's happening. And this came up because on Friday, so every Friday, I do what we call a game film session for the agents that I coach. I break down a real listing presentation with a real client, or we break down a real prospecting call with a real prospect. And the question had come up where specifically it was around not just production, not just, well, Brandon, how does an agent in their first year do X amount of deals, but how do they specifically in their second, third, fourth, fifth year and beyond? How is it that they're scaling at such great lengths? Yes, they're getting referrals. Yes, they're getting better at their craft. All of that is true. Yes, they're getting repeat clients. Yes, all of that is happening. But there's something actually beneath all of that that's happening that nobody is talking about on the internet. And I'm going to attempt in this episode to do the best that I can to help visually display this and explain it in a way that you have a true aha moment, that you have a true moment in your career where you have this epiphany that what you're doing matters and how it will manifest in the future. All right. So that's how I'm going to tee this thing up. And yes, for any of those agents that are still wanting to have a conversation around working with me as your coach, like always, I will have a link in the description underneath this video. Feel free to click on it. You can schedule time for us to have a conversation, ask each other some questions, and then determine if working together right now makes sense or not. So let's jump into this. So let me share my screen. We first have to talk about, there's two concepts we're going to discuss, all right? So the first concept, when I say the word, I don't want you to dismiss it immediately. All right. I'm going to try to take my time through today's episode so you can really get the best value and takeaways. So when I say the word consistent, right? Consistent. When I say this, I don't want you to dismiss it because you've heard it a million different times. I want to give it to you in the context of this. All right. So if an agent, let's just say, is going to set 10 listing appointments in a 30-day period or a month, okay? So the first concept we have to look at, and I made another video about this called the gambler's fallacy, all right? And this is what I want to show you, all right? So an agent says, okay, I'm just going to kind of draw this calendar here. Bear with me as we get through this. So we got 1, 2, all right, so we've got week 1, week 2, week 3, and week 4. And then we've got, we'll just do a 5-day work week. I want agents to take the weekends off with their family. So you've got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Now, the agent who will just say that this agent, for the sake of simplicity, has 20 new conversations per day with prospects. All right. And so they do that every week. And so at the end of the month, right, they do that. They're having 100 contacts per week. They end up with 400 contacts at the end of the month. And let's just say, as a result, they set, like we said, those 400 contacts yielded that agent 10 listing appointments. Okay, fine. So when you do this, you establish a baseline conversion. And that conversion, if we just take the number 10, right, and we just simply divide that by 400 contacts, you're going to obviously get this number to say, okay, well, in that month, 40 contacts on average equaled one listing appointment. One listing appointment set, okay? That's how you establish this average. Now, you establish the average, you set 10 listing appointments in the month, But here's how that actually came to be. This is the first concept I want to show you guys, and then we'll get into the next concept. All right. Let me bring this up here. Okay. So I'll make this a green for every day that you set an appointment. Because I think the challenge for most people in the beginning of this think that, okay, well, I'm going to make the 20 conversations, and that means I should, well, for every 40 people I talk to, that means every 2 days I would set an appointment, right, Brandon? And wrong. That's not what's happening here. That's the first concept. So you might set one here. You might set one here. You might set, we'll say 2 here, right? So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. You might go a whole week without setting anything. Then you set 1 here. You set 1 here. You set 1 here. So now you've got, what do you have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then on week 4, you got 2 on Monday. So that's 7, 8, 9. And then you didn't set another one until Friday. That's kind of what it looks like, y'all. This is what it looks like. On these days is when you set an appointment. Every other day, you didn't set anything. But you wouldn't have got the 10 listing appointments had you not done the 20 contacts every day. All right. So that's the first concept. This is, again, called the gambler's fallacy, where it's like, well, Brandon, you said in that video, I watched it. I rewound it and I watched it a million times. You said 40 contacts equals 1 listing appointment. And Brandon, I did exactly what you said. I made 40 contacts and I got no listing appointments. What am I not understanding? Well, because you have to be consistent over a long period of time for you to establish that average. Okay. So we're not going to spend that much time on this concept because it's the next concept that really actually matters. The only thing I want you to take away from this first concept is that these 40 conversations that equaled 1 listing appointment, this is the key thing. These 40 contacts were from people that you spoke with one time. So we call this first contact in our world, okay? So with this agent, let's just say that this is their first month in this activity of outbound prospecting, all right? And all of these appointments came from people they spoke with once. Now, stick with me on this. So maybe in month 2, all right, they do the same thing over again. They stay consistent. They have 400 contacts. Again, all these were first-time conversations. And in month 2, let's just say they set 8 listing appointments. Okay, now they have a new average, right? Because now they've got 800. So they've got their new average because now they have 800 contacts under their belt and they have 18 listing appointments. So when we divide those, we say, okay, 800 divided by 18. Now it's 44 contacts per 1 appointment set. All right. And as you go month over month over month over month, these different ratios will, of course, they'll change. They'll change. Here's the question, though. If this agent keeps going on this path, okay, and I'll show it to you in a, let's just say they do this for 1 year. So in their first year, they do 400 contacts every single month times 12 months. So in their first year, they had 4,800 contacts. And again, a contact is simply a voice-to-voice or face-to-face conversation with a decision owner. In our world, this is to a homeowner because we're looking to get listings. And in that year, they set an average of 8 listing appointments per month. So in that year, they set 96 listing appointments. Okay, they set 96 listing appointments. And so as a result, their average, 4,800, we just said it, divided by 96, it takes them 50 contacts to set 1 appointment. You with me so far? So they did this for a year. And what most agents do is, yes, their skills will start to get better. And yes, they will start to get repeat and referral business. We talked about that at the beginning of the video. But what really stays about the same is they may be able to get this number of 50 conversations to 1 appointment, which is a lot of work. Let's be honest. You got to talk to 50 people, deal with a bunch of rejection to get this one appointment, right? So in a world where you have to, now look at the numbers, how they play out. In a world where you might have to set 2 appointments to go on 1, right? You might have to go on 2 appointments to get 1 listing. Well, what does that then look like, right? So if you really wanted to get 1 listing or 2 listings or 3 listings or 4 listings per month, then you have to scale that out even more, right? So let's just stick with this number. So if this agent continues down this path, they might be able to lower that number to call it, mid 40s is kind of what we would see as an agent with really good skills. All right. They might be able to get this to 45 contacts per 1 listing set, right? And so as a result of that, again, they're probably going to have to set 2 to go on 1 appointment, which then means it's 90 contacts to go on 1. And remember, they probably, most agents, if they're being honest, have to go on 2 to take 1 listing, which then means, watch, to take 1 listing. So 1 listing, they need 180 contacts to get 1 listing signed. All right, that's how the math would actually work out. Now, if you're following the math and you're paying attention in this video, all right, you can go back, rewind it, do the math. The question is that came up on the call was, we have agents right now inside of our Inner Circle coaching program that this number right here, where most agents have to talk to about 180 people to get 1 listing on average, all right? We have people right now where this number is like 50. And we have some agents that this number is 22. And we have some agents that are at 18. Because, that's the second concept I'm going to explain, is rather than it taking 45 conversations to set 1 appointment, maybe they're at 15 conversations to set 1 appointment. Now, the reason why I made this entire video was, how in the world is this possible? And this was the big aha for the agents that were on the coaching call on Friday that I'm going to walk you guys through now. Here's the thing that no one really talks about, all right? Remember, I told you a couple key things. Those 4,800 contacts per year that agent was doing were all first contacts. And I think what that agent set. So they set 96. Remember? They set 96 appointments. Well, for most agents, they live in an all or nothing mentality or approach. Meaning, when they call these people, or when they knock on their door, or when they send them a text message, or when they send them a piece of mail, or when they see them at a networking event, and they have this first conversation, what I mean by all or nothing is that if they don't get what they would consider instant gratification, and they don't get something out of it, and what they mean by that, without saying it, is that they don't set an appointment. They live in this first contact-itis that nothing else happens. They either set the appointment or they get nothing. They set the appointment, or they come across so aggressive and pushy that if they don't get the appointment, them or the prospect never want to talk to each other again. That's what I mean by all or nothing. They're saying, I'm going to die on the hill of either setting this appointment, or I'm going to push them so hard because I need this appointment so bad. I want this appointment so bad. I get it. I talk about that all the time, fight for the appointment. But not to the extent that if you don't get the appointment on that phone call, that you absolutely blow up the opportunity to ever do business with them in the future, which is why this agent is going to have a tough time scaling their business, unlike concept number 2. Let me explain. So concept number 2 is what we would call pipeline maturity. Now, you might say to yourself, well, I've heard of that before. I know you've heard of it, but do you really understand it? Do you really, really understand it? Because I've had agents tell me all the time, Yeah, I've heard of that before, but until I experienced it, I did not get it. I'm going to do my best to try to explain how this works and what's happening. So, how does an agent go from, let's just say, first year? Remember that first, they set 96 listing appointments. Maybe they went on half of those. Yeah. So they maybe went on 48, and maybe they converted half of those. So they took 24 listings taken, and maybe they sold 70% of those. So they sold 17. All right, that's not a bad first year. But how does this agent go from 17 sold, setting 96, going on 48, 24? How do they go from a world like that to their second year, and let's just say they were able to double all of that, right? And in their second year, they sell 34. And in their third year, they actually double it again. In 3 years, they're doing 70 deals a year, where most 3-year agents aren't doing anywhere close to that. How is that possible based on pipeline maturity, the pipeline maturity process? Well, let me explain to you. The agent who understands this really, really has an advantage over everybody else. Because like everybody else, the first year, they're going to make that 4,800 contacts. And this is not that difficult. Don't pass out on me. Don't be like 4,800. Brandon, that's only 20 per day. All right. So just relax. Stick with me on this. So here's the thing. We just said that the average is this person doing that on first contacts can set 96 appointments. But here's my question for you guys. So if I take 4,800 minus 96, this equals 4,704 people who said no to an appointment on the first conversation. What are we doing with those people? What's happening with these people? Well, most agents that live in first contact land don't do anything with them. So they get stuck trading time for dollars. This is how you get the compound effect to work for you. This is how you can make money in the future from work that you do today and in the past. This is how you make money from that in the future. Watch. So rather than just saying to these 4,700 people, all right, you didn't give me an appointment today, then we're never going to talk to ever again. No, we're going to generate what we call a lead. This is a lead. Just because I don't get the appointment today, well, I hope you're going to be in the business next week. I hope you're going to be in the business in 6 months from now. I hope you're going to be in the business next year this time. Well, guess what? Agents that generate leads every day don't have to start over from zero every day. They don't have to trade their time for dollars and just get appointments from people that they've cold called one time and hope for the best. They can build a pipeline that matures over time. Let me try to show this to you. So using this example, okay, I want to give you here's another average. So an average conversion from contact, we'll say first contact, to a lead generated is about 10%. This is what I see from agents that I coach. All right. Now, what would have happened here? In that first year, they had 4,800 conversations, remember? So this means that we said they set 96 appointments, and this agent also generated 480 leads. And now watch what happens. So in their second year, they still make the same amount of contacts. They're still working the same amount. They're not working any harder. But of these 4,800 contacts, remember, 480 came from the prior year's work. Well, guess what? These 480 people convert at a much higher rate, much higher, because now they've been following up. They've talked to them 2, 3, 4, 5 times. They've sent them direct mail pieces. They've been on their weekly email newsletter for a year. And now these convert at a much higher rate than just a your typical cold call to somebody for the very first time. So now watch what happens. They set another 96 appointments from just cold calling. Okay? That was their conversion. Remember, I said you could probably scale that a little bit? But here's what also happens. Remember these 480 people that came over from year 2? That converts at a much higher clip. And so if we looked at 480 leads, we know that about 10% of that database can convert into an appointment set. So guess what? They get another 48 appointments set from work they did a year ago. So now, doing the exact same amount of work, they're not working any harder. They're still only making 20 contacts per day. They haven't changed anything. But rather than killing that prospect, figuratively, obviously, and never talking to that person again, they said, no, I'm going to live to fight another day. I'm going to generate a lead. I'm going to put them in my database. I'm going to put them in my pipeline. And as a result of that, they end up setting 144 appointments in their second year. And let's just say everything else stays the same. They end up going on 72 appointments, right? They end up listing 36 of those. And they end up selling 70%. So they end up selling 25 units in their second year, as an example. Well, guess what happens the third year? Yep. This continues to compound, my friends. This continues to compound. This person does another 4,800 contacts. Again, it's 20 per day. They don't work any harder. But now, right, out of that, they set 144. So and they generated another new 480 new leads. Plus, right, remember, I'm going to try to map this out the best I can. I'm not going to get crazy on the math. They set 48 of the 480, right? So 480 minus 48. So that leaves 432. They got 432 leads still in their pipeline from the second year. All right. So now they've got, of the 4,800, they have 480 plus 432. Now 912 of these conversations came from the pipeline. And remember how those convert. This is 90 appointments just from those people alone. Plus, right, the 96 new. You can see how this thing's going to scale quickly now, yeah? 90 plus 96. Now they set 186 appointments set. And you can do the math. And then what happens in their fourth year, right? And their fifth year. This is what's happening when agents build a pipeline, such that in about 5 to 6 years, their 20 contacts per day are no longer new people. They don't have to cold call anymore. All 20 of these conversations are with people from the pipeline, and as a result, they convert a lot higher. So remember, go back to the video where agents that just live in first contact land and they don't ever generate leads, they don't ever follow up, they don't build a pipeline. Now this agent is probably setting one appointment for every 15 to 20 contacts. Now they are setting one appointment a day. Why? Because the 20 people they're talking to are from people that they have now an actual relationship with, rather than having to cold call 20 new people per day. Now, you're going to be the judge of this. I don't know if that explanation, you say, wow, first time it's ever been explained that way. But I'm hoping that I did a decent enough job where you look at this and you finally understand the value of pipeline. You finally understand how to monetize your prospecting today so that you get paid for it in the future.